Okay, this chapter of Fairy Tail was insanely good. Like, there may have been one or two plot holes, but not big ones, so I don't really care. However, overall, this chapter was really good, and as I predicted, the time-lapse failed. Didn't fail how I expected it, but it failed nonetheless, so there's a relief. A number of things were answered in this chapter as well. One of these things were whether Acnologia gets motion sickness or not, and well, he actually does. I am so happy about that. I mean, some people are gonna be mad since he's the biggest enemy there is in Fairy Tail. Such a weakness shouldn't exist, but he's a Dragon Slayer at the end of the day, so to those people I say, deal with it. It makes perfect sense, and it is a good thing no matter how you look at it. But yeah, we basically get to see how they barrel roll around the time-lapse, and sure enough, Acnologia supposedly falls for it. However, what Blue Pegasus and Anna don't expect is that the time-lapse would be closed, as we find out that Zeref actually found the time-lapse and decided to close it until his plan can be fulfilled, that plan being to use Mavis together with the time-lapse in order to create Neo Eclipse. This then in turn causes Acnologia to grab onto the ship, which of course causes everyone on board to panic. I mean, I'd probably panic too if the world's most feared dragon just decided to hitchhike on my ship without permission. That panic doesn't last forever though, as they realize that one possible thing they can do is to simply destroy the Lacrima, which makes it so that the Dragon Slayers can be on that ship without getting motion sickness, and that's where we find out that Acnologia gets sick from being on transport. We even see him spew out some saliva or something. Could be vomit, but I find it more likely to be saliva or something like that, since we've never actually seen anyone puke in Fairy Tail from this, well, not visibly. We also get some small talk between Wendy and Anna, where she points out that her memories of Anna were limited, and we learn that it could be because of the crossing through Eclipse at an early age. We did, however, previously learn as a reader that it's a possible side effect from the Dragon Soul ceremony that the dragons did in order to seal themselves in their bodies. But then again, now that I think about it, that was simply causing them to forget the ceremony, so the fact that their memories of Anna are quite limited is probably mostly because of this eclipse thing. So the last thing to mention about Blue Pegasus and Anna is that Anna is still persistent on using the time-lapse, so she suggests that opening it somehow is the best thing to do. I mean, I bet there will be some complications on that front, because if Zeref is the one who closed it, I think opening it won't be so simple. I mean, not only do they have to deal with opening the time-lapse, which they most likely don't know how, but also Acnologia is on their heels. So there is a good chance that they will somehow need to split up, I imagine, having whoever remains on the ship to act as a diversion while some others deal with the time-lapse. Even if that means doing it from the ground, since they probably can't fly. That said, there might be a smaller secondary ship inside the Christina. I mean, not that I know of, so that's all I guess, but it's certainly a possible thing since it's a ship after all, and even if it's just a ship of a lifeboat, then it's probably gonna be a flying variety since the ship itself is. Okay, so moving on to Lucy Gray and Happy, because there was a thing, wasn't there? Yeah, a pretty huge thing that happened. Well, actually two things, but only one that is huge. Let's begin with the smaller thing, and trust me when I tell you that you won't have picked up on this unless your eyes were really sharp. But what the fuck, Gray? Where's your hand at? That's Natsu's treasure you're groping, man. Lucy may be too busy to give a shit, but what if Natsu finds out, man? Jeez. Anyway, moving on to the big and most important thing regarding these three. Lucy fucking did it. She opened the book of E.N.D. I mean, I know they probably all agreed to it, but I mean, why would this ever be a good idea? Well, I guess it could be, but what must have gone through their heads thinking opening a demonic book about Natsu could have a great outcome? Like, given by what we saw by the end of the chapter, I'd say it did in fact have a pretty amazing outcome, but I'll get to that in a minute. So we see that upon opening the book, there's Natsu's name written on the first page, and the writing from every page starts to burst out of the book in some magic clusterfuck shit. It's the book of E.N.D, and the opening of the book seemed to have triggered something, so I think it's safe to assume that what they have now done is essentially woken up the beast within their best friend, Natsu Dragneel. Which brings me to the end of this chapter, which is actually a Zeref talking to Natsu about the Neo Eclipse and whatnot. Then out of fucking nowhere, Mavis appears and claims that she's going to beat Zeref. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know Mavis is a character of a certain level of respect and all of that, but is she fucking stupid? Even Natsu realizes this, as we see Zeref's magical hold on him is burnt away like it's nothing suddenly. And we see what appears to be what we've all been waiting for the longest time. Natsu's true power has been brought about, and we see Natsu's eye turning reptilian, as well as the fact that he's, by the looks of things, finally entered his dragon force for the first time since Tartaros. It could simply be that the book is somehow raised Natsu's power level and nothing more, which is kinda what it looks to be doing, because he's turning into dragon force, mostly so far, while when fighting Grey his demonic power looked very different, so I don't think he's transforming into a demon. I mean, that could have to do with the seeds in him being cracked, so we could be looking at some kind of hybrid here, Dragon Slayer with the power of E.N.D. It's really hard to tell just what it is that Natsu is right now, but he looks human enough to me, so I'll kinda leave it at that when it comes to what he is. The next chapter is apparently called The Love That Cannot Be Seen Anymore. Well, that will be all for this week's chapter review. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about this chapter of Fairy Tail. To me it was really good and is building up for something even greater. And as always, if you did, please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host, Perm, and I'll see you soon.